From one loving story to another, every child needs love and appreciation for who they are, and maybe no one knows that better than the parent of a child with any kind of difference. April is Autism Awareness Month, and mom of two and author Allison Mitchell joins me to share her book, It's Hard for Me to Talk, and her story. Good morning. It's so good to see you this morning.
Thanks, James.
So you had an entirely different career before becoming a mom. How did you end up being the author of this book?
Well, good question. I don't know if you remember, but I actually was on Good Morning Texas several years ago for my previous career, which was fashion design. So I was a handbag designer. But you know, COVID and having kids sort of coincided for me, and that high travel, high intensity fashion life just was no longer an option really. And then, you know, as our kids grew, it became obvious that they needed some extra support, and my whole life changed, my priorities changed. And I wrote this book really in just a couple of days. It just sort of came through, and it felt like the right thing to pursue.
So you have two children.
I do.
Both are on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
And the title of the book is It's Hard for Me to Talk. And I just want to read the first page. It's hard for me to talk. It's hard for me to talk. I'd rather do something I'm good at. I'd rather take a walk. What's the meaning behind that title for you as a mom?
Well, you know, I think when you have a child who is diagnosed, whether it's on the spectrum or any kind of special need, there are inevitably limitations that are placed on them, whether it's, you know, by teachers or clinicians or therapists. And I firmly believe that if you set the expectation bar high, no matter who you are or what your abilities are, that you will rise to it. And so I always want my children and all of our special children everywhere to know that they are capable of anything, that there are no limits. And that's really what that means.
So we were talking prior to you sitting down, and you said delayed speech was one thing you noticed. What were there other things that kind of tipped you off that my child's a little different?
Well, you know, with our daughter, she was our firstborn, we really had no idea about what to even look for. And it wasn't until a teacher of hers came during pickup one day and said, you know, it's unusual she's not speaking at 2 years old. Do you have any recourse or anything? And of course I was like, well, I don't know, I'm a new mom. But then when we started that journey, she stimmed a lot, which is just sort of a repetitive action. It's pretty common with kids and adults who are on the spectrum. It's a way to self-regulate when they get a little bit overwhelmed in their nervous system. So she stimmed, she stiffened her arms, she would flap her hands, and then she would usually kind of go and do her own thing instead of stay with the group and wouldn't be very social. So now that I look back, yes, those tipped us off.
You can see things.
Yeah.
Another line from the book, which is beautiful, by the way, I can feel when people doubt me. That makes me feel very small.
Yeah. Again, it's just about those limitations and being told, you know, oh, they're always going to need help, or they're going to need to be in special education or something like that. I think also when you're a parent on this journey, you know, your children are a reflection of you, or it feels that way at least. And so when you meet with all of these different specialists to discuss your child's treatment and their future, it can feel a lot of times like there's a lot of doubt around you. But this book aims to give the opposite message of that. I think in a world for these kids who are special, there is often so much focus on what's wrong and what needs to be fixed and what needs to be cured. But the truth is, there needs to be a focus on what's right, because there's a lot right with these kids.
So, and that brings me to something that you're obviously really in tune with your kids. One of the lines is, all I really need is someone who believes in me, is so beautiful. So what would you tell all of us that we can do in terms of helping these kids be their authentic best selves?
I think the best thing to do is to talk to other children about, neurotypical children, about what role they can play. So I think everybody is affected by having a special friend, whether it's autism spectrum disorder or any kind of other special need. And a child who's not going through that experience has an opportunity to be a helper. So if they notice a friend who's having trouble talking or communicating, they can go help. And it's a great way for them to experience what kindness and compassion can feel like, and connectivity, and just, being a source of comfort and bridging that gap for those other kids.
Thank you so much for sharing your story today. Where can people find the book?
You can find it on Amazon and also my website, AllisonMitchell.com.
Okay, and it's called It's Hard for Me to Talk, and it is absolutely beautiful. And you said actually it's touched a lot of adults too.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Coming up next